Hey guys, welcome back. Um, I have to admit, I almost did not do today's chapters. I've just been having a hard day and um I was a little frustrated today because, I've heard and read and see these people that are like, yeah, Jesus saved me and I found God and you know, um my life changed or this event happened um and they talk about it like magically their life changed overnight because of you know finding God and Jesus and everything, and it's like, no, it's work, it's a relationship, it's a something that you build and you work on, and like reading the Bible every day is not always easy, and praying every day, sometimes I don't want to pray, and like learning and following what God actually wants you to do for your life. Like, I just like, I think that like there's a lot of people that make it seem like it's just some magical thing that just happens overnight and you're just this devout believer, overnight. And then I just I don't, I think that that's like not accurate. I think that it's something that you build on, every day, your faith. And I don't know, just a little frustrating today. And the reason I'm saying this is because, um, as you know, in my beginning message, I used to abuse marijuana for a while. And I used to, before I met my husband, had my daughter and everything, I lived alone for a while, years before I met him. And I lived alone in an apartment by myself for 2 years. And that was when I started abusing marijuana. And I would spend like the whole weekend by myself in my apartment just getting high. And all day today, I just felt like this like craving to like wanting to go back to that, to being alone, living alone, and smoking marijuana. So, and just like getting high and just doing whatever I wanted all weekend long. And I haven't like felt that way in a while. So it was a little like frustrating because I have been doing really, really well since I started reading the Bible and getting to know God and, developing this relationship and this faith and stuff and praying and everything. And, but I definitely think that like there's like a sense of like, how do I want to say this? A sense of like people not being real with the work that it takes to put into being, you know, true to God, praying, making time for Him every day, developing a relationship with Him, developing your faith, and, like, and to not sin and to not, fall for, the lies and temptations that, Satan and his demons tempt you with. And I just, I just think that it's kind of like messed up that people aren't more um, upfront with the journey and the work that it takes to go down this path. Like today I had a rough day and I, was kind of down, been craving wanting to smoke weed all day and kind of wanting to run from my life that I have right now. and to be alone, and I didn't want to read the Bible today. I was praying earlier, and in the middle of praying, I just stopped. Literally, I just stopped praying in the middle of my praying, and I just started looking up something on my phone and then just never finished. Like I don't do that. I usually pray like pretty deeply too. Like, um, I don't know. But I managed to overcome it, and here I am in my closet after my daughter's gone to bed and it's super late, and I'm doing my chapters for today. So, um, yeah. Uh, rough guys, rough guys. Just a lot of thoughts in my head. Okay, so today's chapters are interesting. I have a lot of thoughts, so let's get started.
You are not to approach a woman during her menstrual impurity to have sexual intercourse with her. You are
Okay, sorry. I have to stop right there because I have been with men that are like, oh, you're on your period. It's fine. We can still have sex. And I have always, always, always been like, that's a little weird. Like, I don't think, like, it didn't feel right. Like, I don't think we should be doing that. And so to see God saying, like, no, like, that's not okay, was almost like, yeah, like, I know, like, right? Like, it's almost like comforting knowing that, like, um, my feelings around that being like, no, I don't think that's right. When men say that, oh, you're on your period, it's fine, I don't care. And I'm like, I don't think so. That doesn't feel right to me. So it's almost like confirmation in a way, like God saying, like, yeah, no, it's not right. So I'm glad that I've always like stuck with my gut and been like, no, I don't think that's right. Yeah.
not to have sexual intercourse with your neighbor's wife, defiling yourself with her. You are not to sacrifice.
I'm sorry. I just have to laugh because the fact that that's even mentioned is just like specifically your neighbor's wife. Like, oh man, people. Lots of sinning going on.
Sacrifice any of your children in the fire to Molech. Do not profane the name of your God. I am the Lord.
Um, Correct me if I'm wrong, but um, well, yeah. Does what's Molech? Like, has that been mentioned before? Like, I don't like you are not to sacrifice any of your children in the fire to Molech. Like, I don't has that been mentioned? Like, what is that? I don't okay, I don't know.
You are not to sleep with a man as with a woman. It is detestable. You
And this right here, I read of was listening to this earlier, and I was like, oh my God, like it literally says like you are not to sleep with a man like you would a woman. It is detestable. And yet, you know, people are like, there's like all this like misinformation about like, you know, yeah, we're all God's children, but like he that's not his intention. Was it was supposed to be man and woman, and that's you're supposed to have, you know, sex with, if you're a man with a woman, if you're a woman with a man, like not the same gender. I don't know. I just there's a lot that I feel like the Bible is saying that I'm like, "Oh my God," but like I had no idea about any of this because, I've never read the Bible and I've never really like gotten into all of this. So I don't know, it's just like I'm just like, "Oh, okay, wow." Like there's a lot of stuff in here that I feel like more people need to read the Bible though. So, if you know anyone that you think might benefit from reading the Bible and they want to join me, let them know about my videos and they can happily watch them without any, you know, they don't have to comment, they don't have to like, they don't have to say anything. They can just privately watch my videos and follow along with the Bible with me. If you know of anyone you think that might, um, you know, need or it might be helpful to them to read the Bible. So, and they don't want to do it alone, or maybe you just need some like someone to do it with, even if it's not physically in person, you know? I'm so tired.
Not to have sexual intercourse with any animal, defiling yourself with it. A woman is not to present herself to an animal to mate with it. It is a perversion.
Like, oh my gosh. Like, this should just like be like the fact that God has to say this just blows my mind. Like, who in their right mind looks at an animal and thinks, I want to have like any sexual intercourse or anything? Like, I don't look at an animal and have any of those thoughts in any way, shape, or form. I just can't even fathom this. This is just disgusting. Like, ugh.
Do not defile yourselves by any of these practices. For the nations I am driving out before you have defiled themselves by all these things.
And that right there, there's people that were actively doing all of these things, having sex while on their periods, having sex with men and men, like men having sex with men, having sex with animals, having sex with their neighbors' wives. And I'm sure, like yesterday, the chapters about incest, God had to mention that too, because, we all, like, it was normal way, way, way back then, like, to have, you know, be with your brothers and sisters and stuff, because that's how the world was, you know, um, being fruitful and multiplying. But now it's like there's more people, and God's like, oh, okay, like let's not be doing that anymore. But I just like, I oh my gosh, the animal one just every time gets me. I just I can't even fathom that.
The land has become defiled, so I am punishing it for its iniquity, and the land will vomit out its inhabitants. But you are to keep my statutes and ordinances. You must not commit any of these detestable acts, not the native or the alien who resides among you. For the people who were in the land prior to you have committed all these detestable acts, and the land has become defiled. If you defile the land, it will vomit you out as it has vomited out the nations that were before you. Any person who does any of these detestable practices is to be cut off from his people. You must keep my instruction to not do any of the detestable customs that were practiced before you, so that you do not defile yourselves by them. I am the Lord your God. The Lord spoke to Moses. Speak to the entire Israelite community and tell them, be holy because I, the Lord your God, am holy. Each of you is to respect his mother and father. You are to keep my Sabbaths. I am the Lord your God. Do not turn to worthless idols or make cast images of gods for yourselves. I am the Lord your God. When you offer a fellowship sacrifice to the Lord, sacrifice it so that you may be accepted. It is to be eaten on the day you sacrifice it, or on the next day. But what remains on the third day must be burned. If any is eaten on the third day, it is a repulsive thing. It will not be accepted. Anyone who eats it will bear his iniquity, for he has profaned what is holy to the Lord. That person is to be cut off from his people. When you reap the harvest of your land, you are not to reap to the very edge of your field, or gather the gleanings of your harvest. Do not strip your vineyard bare or gather its fallen grapes. Leave them for the poor and the resident alien. I am the Lord your God. Do not steal. Do not act deceptively or lie to one another. Do not swear falsely by my name, profaning the name of your God. I am the Lord. Do not oppress your neighbor or rob him. The wages due a hired worker must not remain with you until morning. Do not curse the deaf or put a stumbling block in front of the blind. But you are to fear your God. I am the Lord. Do not act unjustly when deciding a case. Do not be partial to the poor or give preference to the rich. Judge your neighbor fairly. Do not go about spreading slander among your people. Do not jeopardize your neighbor's life. I am the Lord. Do not harbor hatred against your brother. Rebuke your neighbor directly, and you will not incur guilt because of him. Do not take revenge or bear a grudge against members of your community, but love your neighbor as yourself. I am the Lord. You are to keep my statutes. Do not crossbreed two different kinds of your livestock. Sow your fields with two kinds of seed, or put on a garment made of two kinds of material. If a man has sexual intercourse with a woman, who is a slave designated for another man, but she has not been redeemed or given her freedom, there must be punishment. They are not to be put to death, because she had not been freed. However, he must bring a ram as his guilt offering to the Lord at the entrance to the tent of meeting. The priest will make atonement on his behalf before the Lord with the ram of the guilt offering for the sin he has committed, and he will be forgiven for the sin he committed. When you come into the land and plant any kind of tree for food, you are to consider the fruit forbidden. It will be forbidden to you for 3 years. It is not to be eaten. In the 4th year, all its fruit is to be consecrated as a praise offering to the Lord. But in the 5th year, you may eat its fruit. In this way, its yield will increase for you. I am the Lord your God. You are not to eat anything with blood in it. You are not to practice divination or witchcraft. You are not to cut off the hair at the sides of your head or mar the edge of your beard. You are not to make gashes on your bodies for the dead or put tattoo marks on yourselves. I am the Lord. Do
So I have tattoos. I have a couple of them, like 3 of them. And I've been seeing a lot of people where they're like, "Oh, is it okay to have tattoos if you're according to the Bible or God?" Um and right here it says, um you are not to make gashes on your bodies for the dead or put tattoo marks on yourself. So I'm so all of these things that they're saying, I know it's for the Israelites, but like, do these things apply to anyone that believes in God? Um or like, is are all these chapters that we've been reading and all these like ordinances specifically for the Israelites?
not debase your daughter by making her a prostitute, or the land will be prostituted and filled with depravity. Keep my Sabbaths and revere my sanctuary. I am the Lord. Do not turn to mediums or consult spiritists, or you will be defiled by them. I am the Lord your God. You are to rise in the presence of the elderly and honor the old. Fear your God. I am the Lord. When an alien resides with you in your land, you must not oppress him. You will regard the alien who resides with you as the native born among you. You are to love him as yourself, for you were aliens in the land of Egypt. I am the Lord your God. Do not be unfair in measurements of length, weight, or volume. You are to have honest balances, honest weights, an honest dry measure, and an honest liquid measure. I am the Lord your God, who brought you out of the land of Egypt. Keep all my statutes and all my ordinances, and do them. I am the Lord. The Lord spoke to Moses, "Say to the Israelites, any Israelite or alien residing in Israel who gives any of his children to Molech must be put to death. The people of the country are to stone him. I will turn against that man and cut him off from his people, because he gave his offspring to Molech, defiling my sanctuary and profaning my holy name. But if the people of the country look the other way when that man gives any of his children to Molech, and do not put him to death, then I will turn against that man and his family, and cut off from their people both him and all who follow him, in prostituting themselves with Molech. Whoever turns to mediums or spiritists and prostitutes himself with them, I will turn against that person and cut him off from his people. Consecrate yourselves and be holy, for I am the Lord your God. Keep my statutes and do them. I am the Lord who sets you apart. If anyone curses his father or mother, he must be put to death. He has cursed his father or mother. His death is his own fault. If a man commits adultery with a married woman, if he commits adultery with his neighbor's wife, both the adulterer and the adulteress must be put to death. If a man sleeps with his father's wife, he has violated the intimacy that belongs to his father. Both of them must be put to death. Their death is their own fault. If a man sleeps with his daughter-in-law, both of them must be put to death. They have acted perversely. Their death is their own fault. If a man sleeps with a man as with a woman, they have both committed a detestable act. They must be put to death. Their death is their own fault. If a man marries a woman and her mother, it is depraved. Both he and they must be burned, so that there will be no depravity among you. If a man has sexual intercourse with an animal, he must be put to death. You are also to kill the animal. If a woman approaches any animal and mates with it, you are to kill the woman and the animal. They must be put to death. Their death is their own fault. If a man marries his sister, whether his father's daughter or his mother's daughter, and they have sexual relations, it is a disgrace. They are to be cut off publicly from their people. He has had sexual intercourse with his sister. He will bear his iniquity.
So, why was, being with close relatives like your brothers and sisters in the beginning when, they were like being fruitful and multiplying? Um, like why was that okay, but now it's not? Um, like it wasn't like it seemed like in the beginning of the Bible it was like, oh yeah, like it wasn't as big of a deal, like because that's how they were being fruitful and multiplying. And then now it's like you'll be put to death, like, well, I guess right here it says they're to be cut off publicly from their people, this particular, um if he has relations with his sister. But I don't know, I just like I'm just a little confused on like why it was okay before but now it's not. Is it just because like there's more people now, so it's like not a necessity anymore to multiply in human race? I don't know.
If a man sleeps with a menstruating woman and has sexual intercourse with her, he has exposed the source of her flow, and she has uncovered the source of her blood. Both of them are to be cut off from their people. You must not have sexual intercourse with your mother's sister or your father's sister, for it is exposing one's own blood relative. Both people will bear their iniquity. If a man sleeps with his aunt, he has violated the intimacy that belongs to his uncle. They will bear their guilt and die childless. If a man marries his brother's wife, it is impurity. He has violated the intimacy that belongs to his brother. They will be childless. You are to keep all my statutes and all my ordinances, and do them, so that the land where I am bringing you to live will not vomit you out. You
So, it only applies to the land that they're living on. So, like what if the Israelites lived somewhere else? Like, guys, I have so many questions.
must not follow the statutes of the nations I am driving out before you, for they did all these things, and I abhorred them. And I promised you, you will inherit their land, since I will give it to you to possess, a land flowing with milk and honey. I am the Lord your God who set you apart from the peoples. Therefore, you are to distinguish the clean animal from the unclean one, and the unclean bird from the clean one. Do not become contaminated by any land animal, bird, or whatever crawls on the ground. I have set these apart as unclean for you.
So it clearly says in the previous verse, I am the Lord your God who set you apart from the peoples. And he's directly saying this is for the Israelites. So, I mean, so all of these ordinances that we've been going on for chapters and chapters now only apply to the Israelites, correct? I mean, right?
You are to be holy to me, because I, the Lord, am holy, and I have set you apart from the nations to be mine. A man or a woman who is a medium or a spiritist must be put to death. They are to be stoned. Their death is their own fault. The Lord said to Moses, Speak to Aaron's sons, the priests, and tell them, A priest is not to make himself ceremonially unclean for a dead person among his relatives, except for his immediate family, his mother, father, son, daughter, or brother. He may make himself unclean for his unmarried virgin sister in his immediate family. He is not to make himself unclean for those related to him by marriage, and to defile himself. Priests may not make bald spots on their heads, shave the edge of their beards, or make gashes on their bodies. They are to be holy to their God and not profane the name of their God. For they present the food offerings to the Lord, the food of their God, and they must be holy. They are not to marry a woman defiled by prostitution. They are not to marry one divorced by her husband, for the priest is holy to his God. You are to consider him holy since he presents the food of your God. He will be holy to you because I, the Lord who sets you apart, am holy. If a priest's daughter defiles herself by promiscuity, she defiles her father. She must be burned to death. The priest who is highest among his brothers, who has had the anointing oil poured on his head, and has been ordained to wear the clothes, must not dishevel his hair or tear his clothes. He must not go near any dead person, or make himself unclean even for his father or mother. He must not leave the sanctuary, or he will desecrate the sanctuary of his God. For the consecration of the anointing oil of his God is on him. I am the Lord. He is to marry a woman who is a virgin. He is not to marry a widow, a divorced woman, or one defiled by prostitution. He is to marry a virgin from his own people, so that he does not corrupt his bloodline among his people. For I am the Lord who sets him apart. The Lord spoke to Moses, Tell Aaron, none of your descendants throughout your generations who has a physical defect is to come near to present the food of his God. No man who has any defect is to come near, no man who is blind, lame, facially disfigured, or deformed, no man who has a broken foot or hand, or who is a hunchback or a dwarf, or who has an eye defect. a festering rash, scabs, or a crushed testicle. No descendant of the priest Aaron who has a defect is to come near to present the food offerings to the Lord. He has a defect and is not to come near to present the food of his God. He may eat the food of his God from what is especially holy, as well as from what is holy. But because he has a defect, he must not go near the curtain or approach the altar. He is not to desecrate my holy places, for I am the Lord who sets them apart. Moses said this to Aaron and his sons and to all the Israelites.
Oh man, guys. I feel like I'm like bursting with questions right now. Oh man. Oh man. Oh man. Like why is in someone with a defect not allowed to, you know, I don't know, guys. Maybe it's because I'm tired. I don't know. But these chapters today have me like bursting with questions and just thoughts and um yeah. I don't know, guys. Uh, well, I think my biggest question is obviously like these are for it's he says it repeatedly that these ordinances are for the Israelites and the land that he's putting them in and um I just like so like if 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 you're not a descendant of the Israelites, like so you don't have to follow these you know ordinances. Like, do these ordinances still apply to today? Do like, and if you are an Israelite, like, does it only apply if you live on the land that whatever the land was? I don't even know. Oh my god, guys, I have so many questions. Okay, I think I'm gonna just go to bed because I think I just need some time to. I think I just need some sleep and to let this all sink in. And maybe tomorrow's chapters will have some insight. I don't know. I don't know, guys. I'm gonna go to bed. Talk to you guys tomorrow.